that the storm impacted different areas differently. And I'll be candid with you, of all the areas that we saw, the worst that we saw was orange. It seemed like the most significant damage I was able to observe, both from the sky as well as on the ground in this region, is in orange. You saw more rooftops ripped off. You saw more shingles missing. You saw more trees down. You saw big pieces of steel framing wrapped around some trees. You saw some roads that were still inundated underwater, impassable at this particular time. And that's just what I was able to see, either from the sky or from driving down a street. Obviously, as people get closer and look at buildings or homes, there will be additional damages that people have to deal with. That said, as I ask everybody how they feel about working their way through this hurricane, everyone pretty much had the same phrase, and that is, we dodged a bullet. It could have been far worse. We were anticipating, and it was prognosticated, that there would be a storm surge that could very easily exceed 10 feet. I was told earlier that the storm surge was about 3 feet, and that 7-foot differential means all the difference. We would not be gathering here right now had we seen a 10-foot or higher foot storm surge in this region like what was anticipated earlier. And so when you consider the magnitude of the damage that could have occurred here, we did dodge a bullet. Now, that, of course, doesn't help those whose homes have been hit, those whose businesses have been hit. And for those people, we want them to know that we are already working on the process of helping them rebuild. We have a very important person here, the man on the end, most important person in the room. His name is Tony Robinson. Tony Robinson is with FEMA, and he worked very collaboratively with me and my administration from the time of Hurricane Harvey all the way till today. And Tony, we thank you and your leadership. And I was telling both Pete Gaynor. Pete Gaynor is the head of, or the administrator of FEMA, and I told the president, never before in my experience as governor have I ever seen an administration that responded as swiftly and as effectively as what President Trump and Administrator Gaynor have done this time, and we really appreciate their tremendous effort. Some details I want to get into. One is, as you may know, want to clarify, I have declared a disaster in 62 counties, and the president has similarly declared a disaster in each of those counties. Hurricane Laura made landfall near Cameron, Louisiana, about 30 miles east of the Texas-Louisiana border at 1 a.m. as a Category 4 storm hurricane. Winds exceeded 80 miles per hour, and the storm surge was an estimated 2.5 to 3.5 feet at the Sabine Pass area. Texas Point National Wildlife Refuge had about 74 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts up to almost 90 miles per hour. Port Arthur, you could see, was less. It was 38 miles per hour sustained winds with gusts up to 51 miles per hour. Orange County Airport, winds sustained at 29 miles per hour with gusts up to 54 miles. And Beaumont Regional Airport, 59 mile per hour sustained with gusts up to 66 miles per hour. Tree damage has been reported in Jefferson County, as well as the other surrounding counties around this region. I hear from some reports that we would expect to see even greater tree damage as you go further up north into East Texas. Other damage reports will be coming in during the course of the day. We do have teams in this region already, whether it be search and rescue teams, law enforcement teams, the National Guard, assessment teams that are covering every city, every county, every region to make damage assessments, but also to go about the process to determine the safety of everybody who lives in this area. And so I do want to get one confirmation, Chief Kidd, I have from you that Interstate 10 is currently closed at the Texas. That's not true.
Check with the highway patrol. It's open all the way to the border. On the Louisiana side of the border, they knew we had some damage, so we'll have to check the Louisiana side. But we were open all the way through to the border.
I-10 is open all the way to the border. By the way, and I did have the opportunity to speak with Governor Edwards of Louisiana this morning, and he was his typical jovial self and was ready to be offering help to Texas. And so he's in good spirits, and I know the people of Louisiana are dealing with challenges themselves right now, and Texas and Texans stand ready to help our neighbors over in Louisiana. Several state agencies, including the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Task Force 1, the Texas Parks and Wildlife, as well as the Texas Military Division, are scouring every aspect, every zone of all of the affected areas to provide search and rescue capabilities as needed. We will continue that process until we know for a fact that there is no person who is unaccounted for. As of now, there remain more than 160,000 power outages throughout the entire Texas region affected by Hurricane Laura. We have almost 8,500 people who were provided shelter throughout the state, with more than 3,000 hotel rooms sheltering evacuees. Sheltering operations are occurring in Bexar County, Ellis County, Tarrant County, Travis County, and Harris County. And those efforts will continue as long as needed. One very important point here, and that is one thing that saved lives was evacuation orders that were made by local officials. And it was so important for local residents to heed those local warnings. And by people getting out of harm's way at an early time, that's one of the reasons why the loss of life was minimized, as well as the damages were minimized. I do want to emphasize, however, just as people listen to local officials in knowing when to evacuate, it's equally important to listen to local officials about when it is a good time to return. If you have no power, if there are other challenges on the ground, there will be different parts of a particular county that will have different levels